Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles, and I welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have an interesting episode for you guys. You definitely want to stick around for this one. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, one of the biggest debates taking place in the sports world right now, specifically in NBA circles, is centered on the potential of the NBA shortening its seasons. As y'all know, the standard season is 82 games in a season. Last year, we had a modified season. It was 72 games because they were trying to, readjust the season given the coming back from the global pandemic. And this really started from Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner's recent comments that he made at a press conference. And those comments that he made caused Richard Jefferson, former NBA player, to just totally go off on current NBA players, right? He had a classic, soliloquy, to use the word that they use, the term that they use, on ESPN, and he basically let his feelings known in no uncertain terms, right? He was crystal clear about it, and a lot of NBA fans agreed with Richard Jefferson on the things that he said, because I looked at the video. That video has close to 1 million views on ESPN. And, I read some of the comments, and we published a video on it. And a lot of people that saw our video responding to the comments that he made, a lot of people concur with his view. A lot of people agree with what he had to say. So just yesterday, CJ McCollum was on ESPN First Take, and he was on there, during a segment with JJ Redick and Stephen A. Smith, of course. And he was asked to react to some of the comments that JJ Redick had to make. And before we go too far, what we want to do is play some of his comments, because we're trying to get to another point, but we want to give this entire, show that we're producing here more context. So take a listen to some of the things that he had to say, then we're going to come back. So take a listen to that.
I have a lot to say.
I'm sure
I don't even know where to start. I've taken tons of notes. Let's just start with the adjective he used, appeasing players. First of all, players haven't come out and spoken on this matter, so I'll probably be one of the first to speak on it. Adam was asked a question. He addressed the question. Obviously, collective bargaining, there's a lot that's going to go on. There's a lot of discussions that are to be had. But from the players' side, I think obviously my job is to do what's best for the players, to protect the better interest of the players, while also protecting the integrity of the game. You talked about the history of the game. These are all things that we've discussed. But there's a rule of thumb here. You have to adapt or you die. Once upon a time, there wasn't a three-point line, as JJ talked about. He's referred to certain players as plumbers or garbage men.
They did have second jobs.
Dentists or doctors. There was a time in which players had second jobs. I actually have a second job now at ESPN, but I'm fortunate to be in a different position, and I'm thankful for that. But the game has evolved. The way the game is played has evolved. The TV licensing deals have evolved. We're sitting here talking about sports right now. There's millions of people watching, and there will be millions of people watching Game 3 in Boston for a reason. Players deserve 7 figures, 8 figures, 9. Some deserve 10. LeBron's a billionaire for a reason. I think the issue here and what we have to address and figure out is what's best for the game. Obviously, there's financial implications. There's a revenue situation that we have to figure out. What's best for the governors, what's best for the players, and what's the happy medium. But to say that this rule is appeasing players is blasphemy, because there's a lot of players that just want to play 82 games. They want to protect the identity of the league, the history of the league, and we have to figure out collectively as a whole what's best for us. But all these things are just being discussed right now. There's no definitive plan of action. I know you guys have discussed 58 games. I'm sure there's a happy medium. Me as a player personally, I want to do what's best to protect the interests of us, whatever that looks like. And I'll vote on behalf of players, similar to how I have in the past. I voted against the bubble, but I end up going anyway.
So those were his comments, in response to the things that Richard Jefferson had to say. And of course, they went back and forth, on it. Now, this morning, we received an article on our Instagram via one of our viewers, from one of our viewers named Eric Square. And he sent us this article on Instagram. And we got an article, from sportskita.com via SiriusXM radio. And basically, that article highlighted some comments that another former NBA player in Grant Hill had to make in response to the NBA potentially shortening its season. So before we go too far, this is really at the heart of this video. We want you guys to take a listen to the things that Grant Hill had to say in response to the NBA shortening his season, potentially or considering shortening the schedule. So before we go too far, take a listen to what Grant Hill had to say. Take a listen to that.
Where do you stand on that as a guy that played your entire career going through that 82-game grind? Would you like to see it shortened? Do you think it's something that would work for the league?
You know, I don't say this much, but I'm probably in agreement with Richard Jefferson. And I'm someone who would have benefited from, the environment that we're in now in the NBA. The pendulum, I remember this story, and certainly this was back when Eddie played, but I remember in Detroit, 96, 97, I'm leading the team like in points, rebounds, assists, minutes. I'm like second or third in the league in minutes. And I tweaked my calf or something in the game, and the next day at practice, our trainers keep me out and sit out of practice. I remember Rick Mahorn walks by me and says, "Oh, soft ass Dookie." And, now I responded. I said, okay, yeah, I used to kill him. I used to say, you didn't go to college. You went to an institute, And so we go back and forth. But, that was the environment. You played. And there was no resting or workload or any of that. And so as the money has grown and the information that we have available to us now, it's changed immensely. So I would have benefited from that. But I think there's some things you just don't like. To me, it's supposed to be hard. It's almost like I was telling somebody the other day, it's like, okay, now we're going to change marathons because it's so hard to run a marathon. Yeah. So we're going to stop a marathon every day and after 1 mile, and we're going to rest, we're going to eat, we're going to sleep, and we're going to resume the next day. So instead of doing a marathon in a day, we're going to do it in 25 days because it's too hard. No, the season's supposed to be hard. And that's part of the challenge is staying healthy and having, building some toughness to be able to be in this situation now where you're in the playoffs and in the finals. And so I reluctantly embrace the workload and all these other things that we're doing. But I think shortening the season, no, I have an issue with that.
Now, here are my thoughts on this entire matter. First of all, let me say this, and I think it's important that I say this. I don't know what it is like to play in an NBA or play an 82-game season. I have no idea what that is like, right? I'm not an NBA player at all. I wasn't even a great basketball player. I just enjoy watching basketball. In high school, I sucked. But that's not my strength, right? My strength is what I'm doing. So that wasn't my strength. I wasn't meant to be a basketball player. So I'm certain that it's very, very difficult to do. I don't think it's easy, and it must be taxing on the mind and the body. So I'm just going to assume that from afar that it's not easy. But there is one thing I do know. There is no evidence, at least as of yet, that shows that playing 82 games or 72 games or 62 games will decrease the likelihood of injuries. If you listen to the comments that Adam Silver, the commissioner, made, he said last season we had 72 games, so we're 10 fewer games, and it had no impact on the injuries that took place. Players got injured. What do you know? With 10 less games, people still got injured. So the people arguing that the NBA needs to shorten its season to reduce the probability of injuries. Well, last year we saw a reduction in games, and there was still a bunch of injuries, like a whole bunch of them, especially heading towards the playoffs. So it seemed it had zero effect, right? Because there were games. So how can shortening the season really be the answer? Now, some people say you can mathematically reduce the probability of injuries if you shorten the season. To that I say, then why not? Then don't play at all. If you don't play any games, there's a zero probability that you get injured. If your goal is to limit or eliminate injuries, then don't play at all. You will get the result you seek if you play no games. You play no games, you have no injuries. How can you have injuries? Because nobody's playing, right? But that's an idiotic thing to do and say, right? So if the answer is not playing any games, then what is the answer? And if you cannot, if you cannot exhibit, or show us proof that playing less games is going to reduce the likelihood of injuries, when last season we had a sample to look at where there were 10 less games and injuries still occurred, then it shows that you really don't have the answer as well. That playing less games is not necessarily, the case. And some people are saying, no, we should shorten the season. So to those people that feel like we need to shorten the season, to them I say, then only go to, if you work a 9 to 5, only go to the office 2 days a week. The other 3 days, stay at home, because it will reduce the probability of something happening to you on your way to work, on your way home. If your fear is something happening, maybe you trip and fall, or maybe you get into an altercation with someone, or you get into an argument with someone, then chances are the probability of you ending up in a situation like that are going to be reduced if you go outside, if you only go to work 2 out of the 5 days in the week that you go to work, because you can just avoid that altogether. So why even bother going outside in the first place? Listen, life is a risk. You cannot come in life, get out of life without passing through risk. If your goal is to avoid risk, stay in your house. Just stay in your house, then you will be at risk of nothing will happen to you in your house. But we all know, even then, even if you stay in your house, you can still, risk can still, things can still happen to you. So here's my macro view on all of this. I think it sends a terrible message to the public. It is basically saying, in order for you to do your job, you want things to be ideal. If the circumstances are not ideal for you, then I'm not going to do it. And last time I checked, that's not how the world works, and that's not reality, because everybody has their own wants and needs. It's not like, okay, people are just going to capitulate and give in everything that you want wherever you go. It doesn't work like that. You may want something, the next man may want something. And therefore, you guys have to reach a happy medium. And to be fair, those are the comments that he made. But this whole thing about shortening the season and reduce profit, to me, I think that's just a bunch of nonsense. I even heard one of the players, and this is just to give you an insight into how some of these guys really think. I even heard during the lockdown, because of the pandemic, I heard one of the players who's talking via Zoom, and he said, not verbatim, but I'm going to paraphrase what he said. Essentially what he said was this: it just shows you the game is not guaranteed. It could go away at any time, and our livelihoods could be affected. Those comments came from a guy that had made at least, let me say this once more, at least $100 million over his playing career. You are there having a panic attack, and you forget that there are other people out there going through harsher realities than you. And some people say, but how it is my business? It is your bloody business if you play a professional sport where people have to tune in and watch you. It is a spectator sport. I don't know. Listen, I don't understand the people that cannot understand the correlation between the game and its fans. I don't understand these people. Where do you think the money comes from? The moon? How do you think revenue Okay, so these TV deals, you heard him talk about TV deals. Where do you think that money, why do you think that money is being generated? How do you think that thing, there's a symbiotic relationship between the players that play the game and the people that watch the games? And if you're saying things like this that turn people off, the viewing public, how do you expect to generate these? Do you know that I think 40% of the revenue that is generated by NBA teams comes from ticket sale? Are y'all aware of that 35 to 40%? Those are people going to the games, patronizing the product. So you cannot risk alienating these people. You just can't. It's one of the reasons Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant made sure that they did their best to go out there and perform for people. Those guys actually understood how things work. It seems like some players today have a warped, convoluted understanding of the business that they're in. It's how it works. If you start saying things that seem insensitive and out of touch with reality, you're going to turn a lot of people up. This is basic stuff here. I'm not an NBA player, but you can understand this from a fundamental standpoint. You don't need to go to Harvard University to be able to grasp these. They're quite simple, right? They're quite simple. And this guy was up there talking about it. Oh, well, I don't know what could happen. Listen, in my personal opinion, I'm going to speak from my point of view. There are people going through hell globally. Globally. So I'm speaking from a global standpoint. I'm not speaking from an NBA standpoint or bubble standpoint. I'm speaking from a holistic standpoint. There are people that are going through hell. Hell on earth. And you are complaining about an 82-game season where in that same season you get 3 months off in the summertime. What other job do you get 3 months off and you get to earn millions of dollars doing it? And you're doing something you love. Where's the job that you do that at? Where's the job? Where is the job? So just give me a break. I have zero sympathy because I've traveled to different countries. I was fortunate enough to travel to different countries, some great countries, some third world countries. I've been to various different countries. And I've seen people that have zero opportunities at life. Zero. And they have to just get it how they live on a daily basis. I have no sympathy for you. Zero. You've been given an opportunity of a lifetime and all you're doing is complaining about. I don't care. From my point of view, I have zero sympathy. Now, there are a lot of guys that will have sympathy for this because these are these guys' heroes. And there's nothing that they can say that they're going to disagree with. To me, I have no sympathy for it. I have zero sympathy for it. I don't get your point. I'm not interested in getting your point. This is just my opinion. I love the game of basketball, but some of the stuff that these guys say and do really turn me off. It really does. As I said before, I never heard Kobe or Michael Jordan complain about long seasons. So why are you? Why are you complaining when those guys never did, when they had to do it under stricter circumstances? I never heard players before them complain about it. So why are you complaining about it? Why are you complaining about it? It has nothing to do, as he said, with the game evolving. Nothing to do with that. It is that men are getting weaker. How about that? It has nothing to do with the game evolving. It's dudes are getting softer and softer by the second. The more you ask them to do, the more they complain about doing. That's all it is. You can't say, oh, well, they're earning a million, so you can't talk about they're earning so much money, but it was inflation. No, it ain't got nothing to do with no damn inflation. Okay, you're rich then, you're rich now. The salaries you're earning are catching up to inflation. You're beating inflation with those type of salaries. So you want to talk about this? No. You're beating inflation. It's just that these guys are getting softer. That's all. I don't hear NFL players complaining about this. I don't follow the sport. I don't hear other guys, but the NBA players are always complaining about something, man. Life is always hard. I don't get it. For God's sake, it's not even a contact sport. It's not like as if you're playing rugby or the NFL where dudes are knocking your brains out of your eyeballs and dudes are having concussions and all. I don't get it. So these are my opinions. And guess what? I have every right to this opinion. And I think it's one of the reasons you hear Grant Hill talk like, let's just make a marathon a 25-day event. Run one day, go home and rest because it's too hard. Are you kidding me? I don't agree with anything that was said there. Nothing. In my personal opinion, it has nothing to do with the way the game is evolving. It has everything to do with the fact that guys are getting weaker. Weaker, and you have guys out there babying guys and therefore enabling them to get weaker and weaker. That's my real take on it. Some people will disagree, but I know for damn sure some will. And I'm speaking for them. Catch y'all on the next episode.